everybody. Thank you for coming out. Just wanted to say the most important thing you can give is your time, so thank you for being here. Scott just wanted to take a few minutes tonight to answer some of your questions and just shake some hands, so don't let me interrupt any longer.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Can everybody hear me? Thank you. I will speak up. I'll try to be really, really loud. And if someone asks a question, I'll repeat the question, then I'll say, does that work? Thanks, first of all, thanks very much for coming out on this short notice. I just had the idea like a day or two ago to do these things, so we just said, all right, I told my team, give me events, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we want to do 5 events this week, I'm in town, let's figure it out. So we're doing five of these types of events. As you know, or many of you know, many of you may dispute it, but I personally have had almost 1,000 meetings with groups, with businesses, with people all over our district. So we stay very busy. However, when in the primary and the general election, we did a ton of these things. I think we've done almost 30 of these in local small businesses all around the district. So we're going to continue to do those. I like them. There's been questions, why aren't we doing a town hall, right? A town hall style thing? Well, if all of you remember, when we did a town hall in a public place, it was nasty. In Virginia Beach, I was actually embarrassed. It was nasty. I've been to a lot of schools over the past couple of months, and they behave a lot better than a lot of our adults. So we're going to do these types of events. I don't care what part you're going to matter to me, you're all my constituents. I don't care. We're going to help local small businesses in the meantime, and we're going to do these types of things, answer all people's questions, and we're all going to be respectful. Make sense? All right, sounds good. But okay, first I want to tell you, it's an honor to serve you. My team we've been busy all year. When I ran on 3 main topics, but we've worked on many, many different things. Have a strong military, veterans issues. We have the fastest growing veteran population in the nation in this area. Women veterans, OIF, OEF veterans. And then also economic type issues like regulation, of course, and tactical, which we'll get into in a second. I do want to say I serve on the Appropriations Committee. So I'm the first Virginian in the history of Virginia to be appointed to the Appropriations Committee right out the gate. And what does that mean? So there are all these committees, and there are authorization committees, and let's say one of them says, I'm authorizing a submarine to be built. Well, then it goes to the Money Committee, Appropriations, and they say yes or no, right? So why that's important specifically, not just for Virginia, but for this area, as many of you know, over 40% of our economy here is in direct military and federal spending. So it's important to have someone who has a seat at the table to be able to deal with those issues and fight for our district, so it makes sense. Now, on some of the bills that we've worked on, we worked on a veterans bill. As I said, that's one of my main issues. So less than 5% of bills get passed through the House of Representatives. We've passed 2. We have 2 more that are going to be marked up here shortly in the next couple months. The first one we did was the VA accountability bill. And what that was one of my first visits was Hampton VA Medical Center. And Hampton at the time was performing at a 1-star out of their own 5-star rating. Kind of unacceptable, right? So we met with them, and what they did was they took their leadership, and all they did was swap them out somewhere else. So they gave our problem leadership to veterans somewhere else. Mark Lett, I know that you would have a program manager who was underperforming and then put them simply in the same level of responsibility another manager place. Probably not, right? So we passed a bill that would make a secretary, he or she would have to personally sign off when senior management moves and report to Congress. That's passed through the House. We got Senator Tillis down in North Carolina, who's running with it in the Senate. They're already marking it up, so that we anticipate that getting through pretty soon and on the president's desk very shortly, probably before August recess timeframe. So that's one of the big issues. One of the other things that we worked on with veterans was 63% of veterans who use the Hampton facility are from the South Side. So the veterans down here, they use these things called CBOCs, which are way over capacity. And the VA itself predicts that there's going to be 40% more veterans falling into the system over the next 10 years, with 60% more demand and care. So clearly, we are already behind the power curve. There was a vets outpatient center that was authorized by Congress some time ago, but there's been no champion to make it happen. So that decision maker has been in my office no less than 5 times this year, applying pressure. And you're going to see within the next couple of months, they will announce a competitive bid for a new outpatient center, 155,000 square feet. It'll be about 400 some jobs, but it will take care of the 63% of veterans who are down here on the South Side. that I believe it will be in Virginia Beach. The mayor and the city council, they're very well abreast of that coming down the pipe. Chesapeake will try to also compete, but I think they fall out of where the V8 wants it. So hopefully that'll be in Virginia Beach, and it'll probably be right down the street here in the Princess Anne area. That's what we worked on the military front. So we had this spending bill. So let me preface this by saying the military has been hurting for a little while now. And why I say that is there was a thing called sequestration that was agreed to, which was mandatory cuts for the military, and it was indiscriminate cuts. And what that has done, because of course you have a lot of congressmen and women, Democrats and Republicans, by the way. I was in my conference the other day speaking to my Republicans, and I said to them, because they were, we can't look ourselves in the mirror and say, rah, 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 we support the troops, when we have continued to do these, what's called continuing resolutions, which really hurts our military for over a decade. And you're also very well aware of that too. Because there have been over 80 training deaths last year. There were only 20 combat deaths. We can't look ourselves in the mirror and say that we're not contributing to big problems with the military. So when you have these mandatory cuts, the military would come to Congress and they would say, okay, I'm the Army, and I spend $500 million a year on empty buildings. I want to get rid of that. And then the congressmen and women say, no, you can't do that, that's in my district. Or another military service will come and say, this is a $1 billion program, it doesn't fight today's wars or tomorrow's wars, it fought yesterday's, let's get rid of that. And then they say, no, you can't do that because that supply chain's in my district. So Congress has to make courageous decisions like our men and women do every day. And what happens is, because the military still had to cut by law, they cut what they can control, which hurt maintenance. Ship maintenance got stretched out. As you can imagine, there's a cascading negative effect when that happens, because it costs more in the long run to not maintain your ships. It hurts deployment schedules, which get extended out, which means that hurts our families. And I can tell you that this area, anywhere in the world if something is going down, our people are there. And we have been the ones, our neighbors, our families have been the ones who have shouldered a lot of this burden over the past 17 years of war. So it's unacceptable. So I voted for this omnibus bill, and there's plenty of things to talk about in there. There's good things and there are bad things. Because I knew the greater good was to deal with the short-term cash infusion needed with our military. Now, long-term, there's some courageous decisions that need to be made in Congress that I'm advocating for. And I don't mind taking a tough vote and decision to do it, because I know it's for the better good for the military and for the country. Now, what I will say is within that bill, and it's not a coincidence that I'm on appropriations and I'm on the military construction and VA subcommittee, and that Virginia is getting $300 million in an omnibus for military construction. 73% of that is coming to this area. There's basically a project for every base. Not frivolous spending, needed infrastructure spending on the basis. So we have that. There are ships being built. There's going to be probably 2 carrier buys, which should be in Newport News, they're going to be building, which is going to be huge for this area, obviously, in terms of jobs and economic output, basically. So we're working on a stronger military, for sure. On the economic front and on the economy front, clearly I voted for this tax reform bill, because I believe it wasn't perfect, but I believe it puts more money in your pockets. I believe it's good for businesses who have reinvested. I've heard from plenty of people in this district. I heard from a single mother in Froggies. One time I was just there, she just came up to me. And I was raised by a single mother. 4 kids in the house, no money. I think my mom told me she made like $500 or $600 every 2 weeks. 4 kids in the house. No money. And then this single mother told me that she was getting $70 more in her paycheck every 2 weeks. Now I know, as a child of a single mother, that could be the difference between the lights being on or the mortgage being paid every single month. So we had businesses that told us about tax reform and how it's helping them. Century Concrete is one. They gave me a whole write-up and how it's affecting their business and how they invested, bought, I think it was $250,000 or $300,000 worth of a new excavator, and how their employees were making out and doing much better. You can spend your money more than me, better than me, in Washington. So I supported it, I stand by it. Also on the regulatory front. I'm a small government guy, I like much regulations. I think some things sound wonderful, they have a great name to them, but that doesn't mean that they have and they may be well intended, but it could hurt the economy. And you've seen what this economy, you've seen that from regulatory improvement and the tax reform. It's doing very well. We actually have a labor shortage, which is also why I introduced another bill, and then I'll stop talking actually and answer your question, I promise. I introduced another bill because I know that in Virginia, we have 50,000 jobs roughly that we can't fill because people have degrees like I do and they can't do anything. They can't turn a wrench. So we need skilled folks. It's not a plumbing, HVAC, welding. That's not a dirty word. In fact, you're going to get a job really quickly in computer code. If you can weld, you can make a lot of money. If you can underwater weld, you're making more than a doctor. So the Pell Grant system, because we had to think about how we would affect this, the Pell Grant system, who obviously helps people like me, at-risk kids and lower income kids when I was growing up, it helps them, but it pushes them to get a 2- and 4-year degree, which is fine. It's fine. However, if you're not suited for that or you don't want to do that, it doesn't give you that hand up to get a certification, a machinist or a welder or a coder, because there's a duration requirement. You can do those things, but it has to have a long duration or degree program with it. So there are those out there that fall under that, inside of that, in that category, who could get on the job market within a couple of months with a certification. They had the help and the hand up. No, we left the accountability in, and we actually put another layer of accountability in, so that there wasn't any abuse of it. One more bill that I want to talk about before I go into stuff, and that's the Hobbs Act. So you know that the president, one of his big themes getting elected was America first, right? Having manufacturing here and things being made in America. Well, many of you guys know that with the DoD, a lot of the stuff that you buy, or the DoD buys, has to be made in America via the what's called the Berry Amendment. That doesn't pertain to Homeland Security. So Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, Coast Guard doesn't fall underneath that. So here's probably the best example. Customs and Border Patrol's uniforms are made in El Salvador. The Border Patrol's uniforms are made in El Salvador. That doesn't make sense to me. So we have a bill that would deal with that. That would basically require those things to also be made in America. And we've been in the White House. They love it. It's about to be marked up, and I anticipate that passing this year as well. So with that, I'm going to stop talking at you because I could talk about all kinds of stuff that we're doing and that we have done. But I want to answer your questions. So who's got questions? Don't be timid. Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you opening up the Pell Grant to the trades. That's awesome. But the most recent budget proposal, which wasn't adopted in full, cut money in the Title I program, which actually has the Pell Grants. In the recent budget, did that actually expand the Pell Grants to widen the pool for, say, you're not fighting the college kids for the trades kids? Is there more funding in that?
I'm not specifically aware of that.
Oh.
If in the budget, if there was a cut in the Pell Grant program, to my knowledge, I don't believe so, but I'm happy to run down and get that answer for you. What I wanted to do in the Pell Grant doesn't expand the Pell Grant, it creates flexibility within that. So again, if I want to go be an HVAC technical certification for it, and I'm not destined for a 4-year degree, I want to get home to work, I want to get ready to go, and I don't want to school dead, then I can do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. You just don't want people fighting for resources.
No, there's no question about it. And I'll tell you, that would be my challenge. That would be my challenge to get it passed in creating that flexibility, because there are schools and everybody else that would be fighting against me that want to keep it directed towards school, 4-year, 2-year, which again, in my opinion, is fine. But there are many people who may not go that route or don't want to go that route. So that will be my challenge to fight against it, because they're competing with resources. When the CBO will score it and they'll say, well, some people, there'll be a percentage that want to do what you are saying, right? And then the other folks in academia are going to be upset. So it'll be a challenge, but clearly, I think we can all agree, we have a labor shortage. We have like 50,000 jobs in Virginia that can't be filled right now. You can get jobs like that if you can do something. I can't, so I would need that. Answer your question.
Yeah.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
I've also seen research on Medicaid, and the question that I would to go on was that what are the laws you being on Medicaid and 100% disability? What would be the drawback of and we have to keep that. But still, you have, as a veteran, I have to go to the veteran block and then do this, under the choice.
Unless you're on the choice program, or you mean if you're on the choice program, you can go to.
If I fall in for presenting from the hall,
Yes, sir.
because I have to go to Richmond for treatment for that, but I'm in the choice program, because that's $90 away.
Hey, you can do it right here.
I can do it here. But my question
I'm gonna repeat this question too.
is, I have a family of paradise in the Netherlands.
Yes, sir.
It was different from the one that I had to do there. Why can't I just go to the hospital and die and then be in the hospital? And, you know, they will be in anyway. And then I think that there's any program that I have to do and pick it up. What's the goal after having that available? I probably, most primary care doctor was the one that I had on the, Medicare.
You want him to be able to be reimbursed by the VA, or if you need him to refer you to somebody, the VA needs to go to tax, what you're saying. Just confused a little bit. So, two things on that, I want to expound on a little bit too. So the question was about the VA and choice program, and you know why, and let me preface it by saying, I've been in so many hearings this year about this thing in the veterans care and something that we work on. Obviously, I have a huge veteran population. We work on this almost every day, and it's dealing with the choice program. You have a generational divide within the veteran community, and I'm gonna get to your primary thing in a second. You know, this choice program thing has come up on me, and people are questioning, hey, does the Trump administration want to privatize the VA? Right? That's what they want to say. Well, this is my opinion. And what I advocate for, and what I've seen out of like Secretary Shulkin, and so obviously we need a new secretary sooner than later. But you have this generational divide where some of the older vets and the service organizations that advocate for them, like VFW, American Legion, they want to keep the VA as it is in general, right? And the newer generation, my generation, is saying, I want to be able to go, if I need to get an x-ray, why don't I need to make an appointment in Hampton and come all the way back? I can't just get it right there in Centera and just get it sent over to you, right? So we're like, or in general, more for choice. In my opinion, for the VA, it is the responsibility of the government to take care of our veterans, period, right? That being said, there are parts of the country where you need to use more private care to be able to get rid of and reduce the wait times, reduce, with specialized care. There are also parts of the country where the VA actually picks up the slack on some of those things. But I don't think it should be privatized at all. But I think there should be more private options to expedite the care. One of the things we talked about was Medicare and VA talking together, right? That's difficult. It needs to be done. But it is difficult right now because they don't. I will tell you, 100% of the people who are in the VA came from DOD. They still, to this day, and there's been billions of dollars spent on tech, they still don't talk 100% of the time, their records. That's been a battle for a while now, and it's one that we continue to fight, right? Now you're seeing them, this past year, they've actually got on the same page a little bit, with a lot more cooperation with DOD, with Secretary Mattis and Shulkin at the time, to say, hey, listen, let's get out of the software. So the VA had these legacy systems. How many of you guys remember floppy disks? Yes, floppy disks. So the VA's tech system was based on MS-DOS that we all remember when we first started out with computers, right? It's ridiculous. So Secretary Shulkin, who I thought was actually doing a good job, and he said, look, we're getting out of the software business, we're getting out of that business. Let's go to the DOD, let's figure out how we can talk 100% and buy it off the shelf if it makes sense. Secure it and all that stuff. I'm for all those things. The same thing, I think, when you talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and how that interacts with the VA, it's not that hard. It's not that, you could probably write a computer program that can do that. You know what I mean? Like it's not that hard now. But there's such layers of bureaucracy and turf battles and stuff like that. So I wish I could say, and it's done, but we're moving in that direction to get exactly where you want to be with them talking. But it's a big ship to move. It's a big ship to move, unfortunately. But it's very frustrating for people like me. Like, you can do that. You can do that immediately. You can do the systems quickly and do it. But we're fighting to do that. Choice program with the Veterans Choice is coming back up for a vote coming up shortly to fund it again. There's some of it's in mandatory spending. They're trying to put some in discretionary. I don't want to get in the weeds and get boring or anything like that. But again, my belief in the VA, government has to be the people who are responsible to you, folks that serve like you and disabled veterans and such. However, I think you should have more private options to make things faster. Where you can. Does that answer your question? And we're happy to help with you, whatever you need. Yes, sir.
Hey, Scott. First, thanks for what you do for us all out there. You're doing a great job and picking up the Scott Mitchell left off and then going exponentially forward. Talk a little bit for a moment about the VA software project. They spent more money on software from 2005 to 15 than the Department of Defense spent on any weapon system. Okay, and where did it get them? It got them nowhere. So
They got them rebuilding legacy systems that they can't even find parts for. They got it. It's crazy.
It's horrible decision making, horrible bureaucracy.
Part of that's Congress' fault. I'll say that, and I'll say it.
I tried to get in
Before
there.
I got there, but it is
I
definitely.
tried to get in there with solutions. They didn't even want to listen to anybody with any kind of reason. So I've just given up on that. I'm not going to go places where people don't want it. But I think two of the things affecting this region in a big way: sequestration and continuing resolutions. It kills large businesses, small businesses, as you're going, trying to keep people, and you say, hey, we're good for another 90 days. You know, we've got, and maybe, maybe tomorrow, we don't know what that's going to bring. But continuing resolutions have to end. They've done some things with the Department of Defense to help some of the programs and projects, but they've got to really they have to stop all that kind of business because the government loses money, time gets delayed, and I don't know what you
It makes it more expensive.
Yeah.
So I think what Mark's talking about this here, thanks for explaining what they do. It creates instability in planning for businesses, quite frankly, and for hiring people and stuff like that. And it costs more money on the government. So us, we pay more money in the long run. CRs equal bad. It's bad. Bad all around. So it's something that, like I just told you, I basically scolded my Republican conference, because there was talks about the next fiscal year and where that was going to go, that would lead into a CR. After we just passed this it was heavy lifted to do this. And let me talk about that really quickly. So there are bills that you want your members to say no to, right? Say no. There are other bills that you want your member to have a seat at the table. When you're talking about funding the government, you got to pass that bill. You can't just not fund the government, right? So I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't like a lot of spending, but if there are folks that weren't on board in our own party because they talk about the spending. They wanted to support the military, but they weren't even at the table and we knew they weren't at the table. So when you look at that, here's the left and here's the right. You got to get enough votes to get through, and you know this bill's going through. So if you start off with 30 less Republican, 30 less Republican votes, what does that do? It moves the bill to the left, which means more spending. So some of the folks that are talking about spending, but not at the table, they are actually leading to more spending. If that makes sense. It's kind of pretty simplistic, but that's the way politics works, right? So, but it was important for what we did in that spending bill, especially for not just this area, but for the military and for our national security apparatus at large for the country. So you know you have an ally in me who is very vocal about CRs, government shutdowns. We shut the government down over a Clean Dream Act, which wherever you stand on the Dream Act, wherever you stand on the DACA program, a Clean Dream Act was never going to pass because there weren't enough votes. So if you had somebody that was advocating for a Clean Dream Act and shut the American government down for a Clean Dream Act, number one, it's completely irresponsible. Number two, if you were in that DACA population, you should be upset with the people that were saying Clean Dream Act because they knew there was no votes for a Clean Dream Act. They knew that there was going to be a deal, it was going to have more border security, it was going to have more disincentives for future illegal immigration, so as not to have the same problem again. There is a pathway to deal with that, but shutting the American government down for that is an abdication of duty and responsibility.
Scott, a quick follow-up. Are they looking to pass something that incentivizes Congress to pass the budget every year, or they cut Congress's pay? Or
Here's the problem with that. Congress has to do that.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer, right? If I would certainly, if that actually had traction, somebody was going to vote on it, yeah, sure, I'd do it. That's our job, right?
Yeah.
But Like the same with the term limits thing. As soon as I signed up, I got on a term limits bill. I'm a co-sponsor of a term limits bill. But Congress has to vote on that, right? So I don't see it happening. So you're a realist. I'm a realist. I want to push things that I can get done. Yes, ma'am.
There's a move afoot to push the budget year to January 1, to extend it for 3 months to give you guys more time, and to do a biennial budget. Would you be behind, would you support
I
something?
like the idea of buying it. I like
I know
that.
you're used to that from the General Assembly.
Exactly. I like that, and I don't like how we do it now. What I will tell you is, so you have these, the House for the first time in like a decade passed all 12 appropriations bills this past year. And wherever you are, if you should have passed them or not, we passed them. The Senate wouldn't take them up. So we have a big problem in the Senate, we really do. I mean, they won't even take them up. So what happens is, and this is bad, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, what happens is it goes to that omnibus where you're under the gun to get something passed. And bad things get in there, right? And so, but you have to fund the government. You can shut it down, but you're going to cause a ton of pain, and it's not really going to be, it's not going to be helpful, it's going to be worse. If you go back to what's called regular order, I like the biennial, like the budget too, but if you go back to regular order and you pass all 12 appropriations bills, then you won't have the problem that we just discussed with the CRs and stuff. The issue is the Senate, right now. The House, but we have our own problems in the House, but I think we can actually get that done. We already did. Bipartisan, it has to be bipartisan to be able to do that. But we've got to get the Senate on board. So even within the Republican House, one of the things that I'm working on right now actually is bringing the factions together. So we have, one of the things we're talking about doing in the first bill that we start with in appropriations, the pervasive thought is let's do an easy one, and the Senate will do the easy one, and then what happens, the same thing that happens, goes to the omnibus. And there was talk in the House, and they were like, we'll get a confidence bill, we'll pass an easy, and this is what I said to my Republican colleagues. I said, we're in the big show. You don't need a confidence builder. You don't need a confidence builder. This is major leagues. Let's do the hard work first, which is defense, right? And maybe labor HS. But defense is the big one, right? So I think we should do that, and I'm an advocate for doing the defense one first, put it over the Senate, bring at least in the Republican Party, the Democrats will deal with their issues, and they'll come on board. But bring the various factions within the Republican Party together, and let's commit to staying together to pass a defense thing. And get the White House on board and apply a lot of pressure to both McConnell and Schumer to get them to push it through. And again, wherever you stand on how the bill looks out or spending or anything like that, that's the point here is to go back to regular order, right? That is what, that's the way you govern. That's what we should do as a nation.
Oh, wait, no, I forgot about that. Don't worry about that.
Yes, sir.
And I have a question about, I'm going to try to act to do, is the entire act to do with childcare and veterans and everything, are they the same thing or?
No.
Is there a different?
No, so we work on these issues like every day, and one of the big problems in the local area of TRICARE right now is they switched the contract to a different provider, which reduced the reimbursements, which made a lot of people not take it anymore, right? So as you can imagine, my office has a lot of calls, and we're writing letters, and we're getting information from people to apply pressure to the contracting officer, TRICARE, to let them know, hey, I got people that can't find dentists because of what's happening. What are you going to do about it? And that's something that we have zero problems fighting for. It's so important to our insurance. So that's in the works now. It's not fast. Like when I write a letter or ask to speak to an agency, they legally have up to 30 days to talk to me. And sometimes they take all 30 days. And sometimes they give me a non-answer, and then I got to smash them again, and they come back. So that's one issue that we're working on right now is TRICARE. But it is sorry. Come on. What's up, Mark? Yes, sir. You have a question? All right, no worries. All right, well, look, no problem. Well, again, thank you.
I want to personally ask you a question.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, look, I want to thank you all for coming out again. I truly appreciate it. I'm sorry it was short notice again. A day or two ago, we're like, hey, let's start doing these things. We just do them. I want you to know that I think we've now surpassed 1,000 cases done. My team, not me, but my team is fantastic. We actually kept a lot of Scott Ridgell's people in the district, so they've been doing casework for a long time, so they know their stuff, and even up in the in DC as well. And you guys have probably seen Scott Wells around a long time. I want to thank my team tonight for being here. But we're always open. We want to help you. Whatever you need, anything federal government, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to contact us and let us help you. That's why we're here. So it's an honor to serve you guys. I really appreciate you. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I do have a primary June 12th, so I need your vote on June 12th and of course in November. So thanks guys. God bless you.